Yeah, this is really interesting. So check out the fact that there's suddenly no Wi-Fi, even though I was in the middle of watching this video that played for how many minutes did I watch it? Like 5 minutes before the Wi-Fi cut out. And this video is about the recent kidnapping, sexual assault, and murder of a young woman in Birmingham, Alabama named Ebony. You know, my concern really isn't so much about the content of what I was watching, but what suddenly happened 5 minutes into me watching this video in the privacy of my family's home and on the privacy of my own phone, right? There is a community of sex offenders residing in the building where I live in Boston. That's a fact. Anybody can go to the Massachusetts Sex Offender Registry and track who lives at 5 Union Ave or 187 Green Street or 191 Green Street. These are all buildings owned by the Greenville Group. The Greenville Group not only caters to a certain subset of the general population, but they cater to a certain race and ethnicity demographic, meaning they don't rent to Asians. They don't rent to any Asians. There's absolutely no Asians living anywhere in that building. They also don't rent to white females. The rest of the population appears to be mostly minority males, some minority females. A large number of them are sex offenders. And anytime I start watching videos on my phone of crimes committed by sex offenders, such as this one right here, being reported on YouTube, just happened a few days ago, my phone cuts out and I start getting a reaction from some type of person or hacker, presumably employed by the Greenville Group, the same person who's been hacking into my phones for just about 10 years now, who keeps tracking everything that I do on my devices. For 9 of the last 10 and a half years, there has been a sex offender named Jay Irizarry placed in the unit next to mine in the building where I've resided at 5 Union Ave since July of 2011. Jay Irizarry was placed in Unit 78 at 5 Union Avenue in summer of 2013, which is almost 11 years now. According to Greenville management, this sex offender and reported cybercriminal named Jay Irizarry was moved out of Unit 78 into another unit in the same building. This is a factual verbal report from the property manager named Oleg Aliseyev. Ms. Irizarry, according to the Massachusetts Sex Offender Registry, is a registered level 3 sex offender. According to Mr. Aliseyev, she is also a very talented cybercriminal who, quote, as Mr. Aliseyev put it, can get into anything. She is so good, she can get into anything, meaning electronic devices or, presumably anything with a chip. Well, that's what keeps happening to my devices. There's absolutely no reason right now why the Wi-Fi shouldn't be working. I was just watching this video. The router is in the room behind this one. There's no power outage. There's no storm. But every single time I watch a video on YouTube about some kind of rape, the sex offender, who's also a cybercriminal, who's been remotely tampering with all of my electronic devices since she was placed in Unit 78 next to mine at 5 Union Ave in 2013, continues to suddenly remotely disable my devices. Why? Because she's a psychotic sex offender who specializes, according to her handlers at the Greenville Group, in surveillance. Now, isn't that convenient? A sex offender who specializes in surveillance, who suddenly remotely disables my phones anytime I start watching a crime that has something to do with rape or some type of sex offense. I've been watching videos on this phone all evening. None of them have had anything to do with sex crimes until this one. And now there's no Wi-Fi. I also started getting the same exact remote tasering. I call it that because I don't know what else to call it, but it's some type of electronic assault that is conducted remotely. So it's like being tased. It feels exactly like that, except that you're not being touched, but somebody is using some type of electronic output from a device to physically harm you, and you can feel it immediately. It literally feels like you're being tased. That suddenly started happening like 8 minutes ago when I started watching this video. So I'm getting the same exact set of harassment and assault symptoms or signs now while I'm out here in California at my family's home than I did in the unit that I've been renting from the Greenville group at 5 Union Avenue since 2013, right? So since they placed a cyber criminal and sex offender named Jasmine Irizarry in Unit 78 directly next to mine, that's when all this craziness started happening. The hacking of the electronic devices, the activity-specific remote disabling of certain apps on these electronic devices, most often when I'm trying to use those electronic devices for professional purposes or banking or financial transactions or applications for jobs or for research studies that can bring me income, all of a sudden those devices don't work. Those devices are also remotely disabled when I try to send any information regarding the Greenville group and their criminal activities, their negligence, the fact that they read to a bunch of criminals whose activities they refuse to take responsibility for, that kind of thing. That's when my phone suddenly stopped working as well. And now it's also not working because I'm watching apparently a video about sex offenders. See, they raped a young woman and killed her. That this sex offender who seems to be tampering with my phone has a problem with. Sex offenders don't like it when they are apprehended or when people are literally catching on to what they're doing. So obviously a sex offender who remotely disables my phone will have a problem with me watching videos about, other people raping people. I mean, it's such a loose connection, but all I know is right now, this phone suddenly stopped working. Can't watch the video. The Wi-Fi router is literally 25 feet away on the other side of that wall, and it should be working just fine. I've been watching videos on this phone for 3 hours. Not once has the Wi-Fi cut out because I haven't been watching videos about sex offenders until now. And again, as soon as I started watching this video, I started getting remote tasered. So that means one of two possibilities. The same psychotic stalker, sex offender, and cybercriminal named Jasmine Irizarry, who's been using some type of remote tasering device on me since 2018 it started happening, 2017, 2018, has somehow made it out to California and is doing this from somewhere in this neighborhood, or there's somebody else doing this in this area. I mean, I know enough about electronic assault devices to know that they don't work over a distance of 3,000 miles. I'm pretty sure you have to be in the immediate vicinity of somebody to use these devices. So again, either this psychotic stalker and sex offender, J. Irizarry, has physically flown out to California and is somewhere around this house at this time, which is really hard to believe. I mean, I'm having a hard time believing that. Or then there's somebody else doing the same exact thing, maybe part of the same, sex offender activist group or whatever it is that these people are doing, together. It's obviously like a group effort. And they're engaging in the same exact use of some type of electronic assault device out here as the person doing this in Boston has been for years. I'm just speculating, right? I mean, when some crazy stuff keeps happening, no matter where you go, and you're trying to understand, like, how is this possible? I'm 3,000 miles away from Boston. I thought I left these nut jobs behind in the shithole scum holding pen that is my apartment building. Because the landlords love the criminals and they cater to sex offenders and they protect all types of sick and twisted low-life scumbags. I thought I left all that behind. I thought that this was a nice neighborhood with mostly nice people. Why am I getting remote tasered out here in California as soon as I start watching a video about a young woman who was apparently brutally raped by 7 people, obviously all a bunch of sex offenders, and murdered? And why is the Wi-Fi still not working? That's just weird. I mean, the router, again, is 20 feet away. This is really disturbing, and I'm really not sure what to think of this. But you've got the evidence right here, right? Do you see that little wheel turning? That means there's suddenly no Wi-Fi. And the first time that this happened throughout this entire evening was just now. How many minutes did I watch this video before the Wi-Fi suddenly cut out? Just about 5 minutes. Yeah. So the same person who's been hacking to all of my phones and remotely disabling them on a case-by-case activity-specific basis since 2013 is doing that now. And because they are evidently the same sex offender and psychopath who specializes in surveillance and cybercrimes, who's been placed next to me in Unit 78 since 2013, then the same exact thing keeps happening even out here in California because it is the same person. I don't think that the Greenville group would be bragging to me about this person's abilities if that wasn't actually the case. And I have evidence right here that that is exactly the case. Yeah, just very, very strange stuff. And I'm not the one coming up with this. I'm simply observing it and reporting it. But all the stupid, low-life scum retards who watch my videos can't differentiate between somebody who reports and observes somebody else's insanity and somebody who is themselves verifiably insane. They're too stupid to tell the difference. But again, Wi-Fi is not working. Wi-Fi has been working perfectly fine pretty much the entire time I've been out here, which is now over a week. And it suddenly cuts out as soon as I start watching a video about sex offenders that the sex offender who is hacking into this phone seems to have an issue with. Yeah, you do the math on that one, idiots.